Episode 24 of We Were Gamers, JJ.
We've made it 24 times. That's almost a quarter of a century of times.
Do you want to start over?
Nah, it's good. I'm just going to roll with it. Dumpster fire is just continuing
Straight out
forever.
of the gate. Hey, man, we should do some secret podcasts bonus episode hype.
Oh, yeah? Is it?
By the time this will air, that will air.
Okay, so the secret bonus episode that no one knew was coming except us, but even then there was still some doubt, is actually coming.
Yes.
Okay.
It will be out the day before this one.
Awesome.
That was a fun one, kind of.
Yeah, well, you know.
Like half of it was fun. It was so hopeful in the beginning.
Yeah, man.
What a dumpster fire of the NFL season, man.
I don't know about that, but man, there's been a lot of weird stuff this season for sure.
Can you believe the Bills are 4-2?
No, that's part of the thing that I can't believe. Yeah, it's just been a really crazy season.
I'm all lost for words, and half the games are just unwatchably bad.
Yeah, in fact, we're recording this on a Monday night, and there's a Monday night football game being played, and wow. It is my least favorite officiating crew. Not that I have any reasons to choose favorites, but my least favorite official calling the most penalties I think I've ever seen in a football game. In the first quarter, Andrew, there were 3 pass interference penalties. Just so many.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe it is rule changes that have caused these things, but I doubt it. I think that just the disparity of teams has gotten really significant.
I feel like some referees just flip a coin and decide if they're going to let them play or they're going to call every time someone's hand brushes up against someone else as a penalty.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the coin flipped bad, and all the refs are wore their glasses and contact lenses today, and it's just man, penalty city.
So this is We Were Gamers. It's a light-hearted, honest podcast from 2 former quote-unquote hardcore gamers, I would say, in everything from video games to board games to card games to everything. Like anything you could roll a die or shuffle up and deal.
Yeah, we did a lot of those things.
Yeah, so now we kind of talk games and football and our lives, basically, and hang out because we wanted to.
Yeah.
So it's a good spot for people with, budgets or time constraints to hear what our budgets and time constraints mean that we're out there playing these days.
Yeah. Listen to the commiserating about 2 people getting older and not having time to do everything they want anymore.
Yeah, or hear about my terrible, terrible week and how it just continued all the way to Monday.
Well, let's start.
Really only till Friday, I guess. The weekend was fine.
Was it, though? Yeah, I guess it was.
Other than, just bad football, the weekend was actually really good.
That's good.
Yeah.
Because do you want to tell people what happened after the secret episode that was released yesterday?
Well, so as far as people know in the past, I was at a Stanford game that they lost, and we drove up there in which I smashed my phone in half, literally, unrecoverably. And then a series of other bad football games, as well as just general bad luck, all the way to getting some tickets for my birthday to the Broncos-Chargers game, which is the bonus episode that we recorded, which the Broncos probably stunk and lost.
Yes, they did.
And on my way home, sans cell phone, my motorcycle decided to throw its chain off mid-ride and smash up my bike some and leave me stranded in the middle of Oceanside. So that was fun.
What a bummer.
Yeah.
So I didn't get the story. Where exactly in Oceanside were you? Do you recall?
I was on Cannon Road, which is actually south of Oceanside by 4 miles.
Okay, I know where that is.
Yeah, so where there's used car dealers and stuff.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and we almost lost our bonus episode because it was in the recorder, which was slapped by the chain.
Man,
Luckily, the recorder did not break, and I'm counting that as my turn of luck. Like
that was the event.
that was the event when I pulled the recorder out of the bag, and the case that it was in shards, like pieces. I had to pick them out of my bag, but the recorder was unharmed, and the motorcycle technically actually was unharmed, other than the broken chain. I'm going to say, it's turning around.
That's really impressive, actually, to be honest. Like, if the story you told me was true, and that you were going around 70 when this happened, as one does on a freeway, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, so I got a new phone today.
Good deal.
Not new, but a new to me phone.
I mean, look, new phones are new phones, man. Whether it's new to you or new to whoever, it's still a phone.
Yep.
It operates like a phone does.
Yep. So we're turning it around. Hopefully the luck from here on continues to be better. And good vibes, people. Good vibes.
Awesome. Well, we're all glad you're safe, because it would have been a bummer to lose you for sure. And even almost as big of a bummer as losing that amazing bonus episode that we recorded.
Almost.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Well, I actually don't know how amazing it is. I don't remember a lot of what we said in the first half of it. So
you know what? The first half was pretty good.
Okay, great.
Yeah. The second half was just, you could feel our emotions were just ripped from us.
What a football game that was. Just like both teams trying to lose as hard as they can.
Oh, man. I've never seen, like, the Chargers literally proved to me that I've never seen a team try to lose as hard as that before.
There are people who say that our team is cursed. I think that everyone on our team in the fourth quarter just, like, somehow forgets how to work and just, like, goes, well, so the other team needs a chance. We're waiting too much. Let's, like, give them the football. Well, here you go, please. I'll just fumble this and, like, so you have a chance and miss this kick so that you guys recover it on sides. And, oh my God.
Well, we'll go into a little bit of fantasy football at the end, like we always do. But I have to congratulate both of us, JJ.
What did we do, Andrew?
Well, while I was stranded on the side of the freeway on October 14th, do you know what happened?
No.
The end of Diablo 3 Season 7.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So
someone that played that should talk about it.
Neither of us played it, and that's why I'm congratulating us. We stuck to our guns, and we didn't do it.
All right. Awesome. High five, team.
Season 8 starts, like, next week, but I don't know why people would still be playing with all the rumors coming from BlizzCon, probably meaning that there's a Diablo 4 in the works.
Or some kind of Diablo something. Yeah. Apparently there was a couple of people at Blizzard HQ earlier this month who have recently posted on Twitter, members of the original Diablo 2 development team, I guess. And they invited them back to Blizzard headquarters for unknown reasons. And they posted that, man, BlizzCon is going to be cool. So who knows what that means, other than apparently some old Blizzard people got to see something at Blizzard.
Well, they need to really hit the hype train hard, right, if they're going to dispel the D3 problems.
The malaise that has set in. I think a lot of people would be ready for a new Diablo. If you were the type of person that wasn't following the season stuff like we sort of were, you definitely could have. It's been a long time since you've heard about Diablo from Blizzard, right? Like, they haven't released a new Diablo thing in quite a few years at this point. So
yeah, if you don't count, if you stopped at the end of Reaper of Souls and you didn't play a whole bunch after that, then yeah, you're ready for a new game, I guess.
Yeah, so hopefully that's what's going on. We would be excited to hear about that.
I think there's some other BlizzCon news that came out. Still no band yet.
Yeah, no announcement of ending concert or whatever. That's interesting. So I'm not really sure what will happen with that, but I think they have started the pre-sale for people who have purchased the virtual ticket or real ticket holders. So if you wanted to buy random BlizzCon only merchandise, that's available to you.
That stuff's usually pretty cool.
Yeah.
If you have room for it.
Yeah. I think there is a Murloc robe, like a fuzzy robe with like a head thing that makes you look kind of like a Murloc. That looked pretty cute. And a bunch of plushies, new ones. So
It,
yeah, good stuff.
it's been a while since we've done a lot of Blizzard news.
Yeah, there hasn't been a lot to talk about.
Well,
They
there's
finally started releasing stuff
there's
or
been like
talking
a
about it.
rash of new stuff finally, kind of.
Yeah, they just announced even more Blizzard news here. They just announced a new Tavern Brawl that's coming to Hearthstone soon. Did you hear about this one?
Now I can't tell. Is it a tavern brawl or
Yes, it
is
is.
it separate? Is it its own tavern brawl? Like, is there going to be a tavern brawl and this?
No, this will
Okay.
be the Tavern Brawl for that week, whatever this week comes. We
Okay.
don't know
Yeah.
when.
So I kind of get it, but maybe you should explain it because I'm not certain that I understand all the nuances of how this works.
I will go ahead and say I'm not certain that I understand it either. But here is the premise, I guess. It's a Tavern Brawl, so it takes place in the Tavern Brawl little button there, and it has 1,000 gold entry fee, which is a lot of gold, or $10. I guess you could pay $9.99 and get in that way if you had a lot of money and wanted to do that for some reason, rather than 1,000 gold. And then with that money, you build a constructed deck using your card collection, standard format, so no wild stuff. So the Naxxramas and Goblins vs. Gnomes stuff is out. And you take that deck into a arena-like situation where you get to play until you lose. Play that constructed deck. No changes allowed after you build it. You get to play until you lose 3 times.
It's like a weird version of a tournament.
Yes, they try to frame it like a tournament, although it is absolutely not how a tournament would work.
No, of course not.
But yeah, and then I guess the once you get to 12 wins, your deck is retired, and you get these actually quite ridiculous number of rewards. I
Sure,
believe
if you can get to 12.
Right, and that's of course the trick.
It's impossible, probably.
I don't think it's impossible. Based on if the things work like Arena and you're matched up against players with the same record as you, it should be there will be some percentage of people that will get 12 wins, but it'll be like part of 1%, right?
The people that maybe don't need the rewards that they're offering.
Oh yes, almost certainly. In fact, the fact that it costs 1,000 gold to enter means any person who is new to Hearthstone, who maybe has started playing after we've been talking about it, or has picked the game up within the last several years, I don't think it's a good deal unless you are really confident that you're really good at constructed and like standard constructed.
I'm going to tell you, if you're new to the game, skip this thing.
Oh, absolutely,
because
skip it if you're new.
Cynically, as a person in the world, I think they're doing this to get gold out of the gold pool because in a month they're going to drop an expansion on people.
Totally. I think that calling it a gold sink, which is something that maybe MMO players would be familiar with, that's a good analogy for what's going on here. I've seen some people on the internet complain about this being too much like gambling. I don't know that like follows for me. But the rewards are pretty ridiculous. For 12 wins, Andrew, here are the things that you get. You get around 1,000 gold back. So you get all your gold that you spent back. You get around 1,000 dust, which is the things you can use to craft cards, which is quite a lot. You get 50 packs of the most recently released expansion, which is equivalent to $50 worth, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And you get 3 golden legendaries from any set. 3 random golden legendaries, which are super hard to get.
Yeah.
So that is a lot of rewards for 12 wins. Now, as we discussed before, the number of people getting 12 wins, not so many. But that's a very impressive reward structure. And they released a whole table showing how the rewards filter down.
I didn't see that.
Oh, they did. Yes. They released it later after people complained.
Where do you see that? You should link me that so I can link it to the show, because I was looking at that and thought, wow, they really don't say what you get at 8 wins, which is usually where I peter out in Arena. Like, I get to 8 wins in Arena and I lose 3 straight.
I will find it and link it to you here in just a moment.
Oh, you don't have to do it now, but...
Oh, I'm already here.
Well, will you do it? I'm on the fence.
No.
I'd have to see what the 5 win rewards are, you know?
I have no desire whatsoever to do that. Based on so I will go ahead and tell you, since you don't know, the rewards drop really, really fast away from the top 10, 11, and 12.
Oh, man.
Like, the drop from 12 to 11 is you get... so just for numbers, right? 12 gets 50 packs, about 1,100 dust, about 1,100 gold, and 3 golden legendaries. 11 gets 16 packs, about 500 dust, about 500 gold, and 2 golden legendaries. That is like, what a cliff you fall off there.
Yeah.
The next tier, so you get like slightly less golden legendaries going down. At 8 wins, you get 9 packs. 7 wins, you get 8 packs. 6 wins, you get 7, and kind of down the way. If you get no wins, you get 1 pack, which essentially means you paid 1,000 gold for a pack, which is super bad. People have crunched the numbers on this. It looks like the break-even point in terms of like gold and dust equivalency plus packs equal to 1,000 is around 5 wins. And that is not easy to do in Arena, especially when you consider that the people who are going to be playing this are likely to be very good, right? Because you wouldn't enter the 1,000 gold unless you were pretty sure you were pretty good.
Right, it's kind of like a miniature World Series of Hearthstone.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to think about it for sure. And it seems like it's going to be cutthroat in there.
It's also going to be ladder decks too, right?
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. People will play whatever deck they think gives them the best chance. And whatever that means, right? Maybe they think everyone's going to play Shaman, so they have some secret counter to Shaman that no one has shown up on the ladder with yet, and they're going to play that, but I doubt it. So, it'll be very interesting to see what shakes out of that. But I don't think it's going to be for me, because in order to get the 10 packs worth of 1,000 gold, I could just save that money until the inevitable expansion is released.
Yep,
and get 10 packs of 10 packs of new cards rather than that. Exactly. I bet they released the new expansion in December.
No, they always release at BlizzCon.
No, dude. They didn't last year. They didn't release anything at BlizzCon last year. They just showed everything, and then League of Explorers started releasing end of November and December, right?
No, it was like a week later they did a League of Explorers. I thought. Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe it started a week later, but it did the week-by-week thing?
Yes.
Okay, you could be right.
Yeah, but they showed all the new cards there.
Yeah, but they didn't release Goblins vs. Gnomes immediately after BlizzCon that year. They showed a bunch of it, and then they released it like a few weeks later.
I feel like most of them are within a week or so. But yeah, you may be right that they may wait longer.
Anywho, it'll come soon, relatively after BlizzCon. I think it's a safe bet. Not that we know anything, but based off past performance.
We want to wrap up the Blizz news with me wondering if you want to get online later and try out the new Overwatch Halloween stuff.
Yeah, I think that might be cool to do. I would be down to play a couple games of it. At least they have a PvE mode, I guess.
I'm excited about this because I think that's the one thing missing for me from that is playing against bots is fine. It's really not that rewarding, especially because the experience is not rewarding.
Yeah, you don't get much experience in it.
Yeah, and I have no interest in competitive beyond the 10 placement matches per season.
And I don't even have interest in that.
There you go. So we both haven't played Overwatch in a while.
Yeah, it's definitely been a while.
But this PvE thing sounds great. PvE, for people that don't know, player versus environment, right?
Right, so it's like, playing against bots or computer opponents.
Right, so they have a scenario, I guess I would call it, where you have to play through and attack bots. And
it's all Halloween themed. There's like a Frankenstein's monster type character and Dr. Frankenstein, or it's Dr. Junkenstein because it's Junkrat dressed up as Dr. Frankenstein. Anyway, it's a weird thing. It seems like it's very Blizzard, and all the heroes get kind of ghoulish and Halloween themed skins.
How do you feel about wherever Overwatch is now clearly headed, which is every year adding
skin bonanzas
every month or two?
I don't know. I mean, it seems like people like it and they want to keep playing it, so that's fine. I will probably drift in and out of that game when I get the desire to play it, I can jump on. If there are friends there to play with, great. And,
Well, it
drift
seems
away
like not
from
many
it.
people are left on there. I know one or two of our friends are still on there, but most everyone has switched to World of Warcraft,
Yeah, I know.
which is
Big.
shocking.
Yeah, I don't know why this World of Warcraft is so much more We've continued to be amazed by the resilience of World of Warcraft.
I don't get it.
Very puzzling.
I don't get it.
But,
But everybody's having a
Overwatch
good
is...
time. I don't mean to disparage people having a good time.
No, definitely. Let people do what they want to do, But, they said the Overwatch updates will be free, so that's great. We can jump back in anytime they release a cool update.
Yeah.
Like this, essentially.
Exactly. All right. Let's get to the thing that we really want to talk about. Civ 6 launch trailer hit today.
Bum, 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 bum. And, man, it's so good.
And it's so Sean Bean.
Yeah, man.
I don't think we've ever mentioned this before on the podcast, but Civilization, how many games back? Civ 2 or Civ 3?
Did Civ 2 have it?
I don't know. Leonard Nimoy,
Civ 3
right?
had it for sure.
Was the first guy?
Yeah, it was Nimoy for like 2 of them in a row, right? Didn't he do like 3 and 4?
It must have been 3 and 4 were Leonard Nimoy. Then Civ 5 was that guy. I don't know his name.
That guy?
I don't know. This is the guy that is in Civ 5 who's a famous actor that is the British guy.
Okay. I'm gonna look it up now. Now I have to know.
I don't know. We're not supposed to do that on this. But okay. And then Civ 6 is now Sean Bean. When I say is now, I mean that Leonard Nimoy, this actor JJ is going to come up with a name for, and Sean Bean are the narrators for the game.
His name is William Morgan Shepherd.
Boom.
Who is apparently a guy.
He's
been in stuff.
Yes, you'd recognize him.
You hear his voice, you're like, oh, it's that English guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now Sean Bean is the most recent narrator. So in the game and in their shows and in their intro videos, you hear his voice a lot.
Yeah, and it's pretty good. Anytime something important happens in your civilization, like you progress into a new age or you discover a wonder or whatever, some kinds of things, usually they'll have a quick little shot of it, and the narrator will have like a quote or a line written by someone famous about whatever thing it is. And they're pretty cool, and they're like a big part of the civilization experience, I think. And we get to hear the dulcet, glorious tones of Sean Bean's voice.
You know the best part about this?
No.
Sean Bean will be there forever for us from now on. He can't die as the narrator of this.
Immortalized.
As far as I can picture. I don't know how they could kill him as the narrator.
Yeah. It's really cool, and it sounds, so from everything I've heard so far, it sounds really, really good. So,
I saw Trump, who's the famous Hearthstone streamer, playing it a little bit today. It looks pretty Civilization-y and also very different from the previous games. Your paths are more defined as well. Well, let's talk about that strategic view for a second.
Yeah?
Why is that not the game design?
So that's a good question.
So in Civilization, so people know, there's 2 view modes for the game. There's the view that shows you the map in a much quote-unquote easier way to see it for resources and spacing and things like that. It tiles out the map very clearly. It shows you what's on each space with a symbol. It's much more like a board game.
I was going to say, it makes it look a lot like a board game.
Yeah.
That was going to be my analogy, exactly.
It looks like a Catan board.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
For those
it represents all the units and buildings and stuff with symbols that are unique to those units, so that you can see at a glance where things are and how they're positioned against each other.
But it also changes the aesthetic of everything: the water, the land, the units, everything. The crops, all that sort of stuff changes into this really pastel, artistic, hand drawn, cell shaded looking sort of thing.
And like it's very minimal too. Just like, hey, there's like a little, like a hint of a picture of a wheat there, so that you know that you have farms or whatever.
I don't dislike the new look they've gone for. It's very Pixar, like Disneyfied for the normal version of the game. I don't mind it, but this looks like like a really fun board game thing, and I'm kind of curious why they didn't just stick with that all the way through.
I think that if you choose that kind of 2D board game like view, you're not going to sell anyone on your pretty graphics. Right. If the game goes from what Civ 5 looked like back to this in Civ 6, people are going to be like, why am I paying potentially $60 for a 2D board game?
Fair enough. Okay.
I assume that's why. And the default view doesn't look bad, I don't think.
I agree with you. I don't think it looks bad at all. It's a little bit cartoony and kind of overwrought with color, but that's fine.
Yeah.
It's a design choice, and it doesn't look bad. They went the right way with that.
Is saturated
choice.
The word? Is that the correct term?
Yeah, it's super saturated for sure. Like the greens are like fluorescent green.
Yeah, they're very bright, and it's and I don't. It looks better in motion for sure than it does in still pictures. I think we've commented about that before. And the leaders are all very animated and kind of have their stylized look to them, so they're a little exaggerated facial features and stuff.
Yeah, if you've ever seen the movie like Brave, that's kind of what they look like.
Yeah. Teddy Roosevelt looks like a caricature of Teddy Roosevelt. Queen Elizabeth looks like a caricature, that kind of stuff. And so, I think that view will be useful for things, specifically like the unit combat and stuff. I think looks a lot better through that view than the strategic view. But in the strategic view, it's way easier to tell, like, where are my districts? Where are my buildings? Where do I need to move my guys in relation to their guys? Because like that 3/4 overhead normal standard civilization view can be a little confusing if you're trying to tell, like, is this guy on top of the city or behind it? Or like, is there a road that goes out of this direction or whatever? So hopefully that stuff will be a little bit easier to do using that view.
It looks like the most useful strategic view I've ever seen between
Totally.
Civ 4 and 5. Those were kind of like, well, these are okay, but I'd rather just turn on the icons.
Yeah, that was my issue with the one in Civ 5, because Civ 5 had a similar mode also, right? But it just took away all the prettiness of the game, I felt, and just dumped the icons on the map. Well, I can just dump the icons on the map in the normal view too, and that's how I ended up playing most of the game. So, yeah, I totally agree with you on that one.
Thank you for the reminder today that because we are Prime members, we can also get this game for 20% off.
Yeah,
that might change my math.
If you are an Amazon Prime member and you want to buy a boxed copy of a new video game, you get 20% off.
Which is funny because that means you're going to get a box with a code in it that you're going to put in Steam.
Yeah, that's the funny thing to me, is that if you buy a boxed copy of Civilization 6 off Amazon, I will just go ahead and guarantee inside that box when it gets delivered to you. There may not even be a box, who knows? Will just be a sheet of paper with a code that you enter into Steam. Or if there's not, it's just a disk with a Steam installer on it and then a code.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so that's funny to me. But yeah,
and Green Man's also having a sale too, right?
Yeah, I think in order to see the discounts on Green Man Gaming, you have to be a member of their website. You can't just like do a guest checkout or whatever. So you got to give them some information, and then you can receive the discount. Once you add it into your cart, all of a sudden the price goes down 20%.
20% sounds such a good deal. I know, though, in a year they're going to have expansions for this thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, they've already announced that there's DLC planned for it, like DLC civilizations and stuff.
Of course there are.
Yeah, and I believe the Aztec civilization is exclusive to pre-orders for the first 90 days.
What does that even mean? So you have to get the game within the first 90 days?
It means that if you have pre-ordered the game, you can use the Aztecs right away. But after 90 days, it becomes a free update available for everyone.
Oh, okay. So you can get the Aztecs later.
Yes.
Okay.
But I'm sure they will be available. Well, they'll be available for everyone after 90 days.
Okay.
Yeah. And then there will be other DLC civilizations down the road, just like there was with Civ 5, Korea, and some other ones that were DLC. Will, I'm sure, show up down the road. And of course, they sell a season pass for all that stuff if you wanted to buy that.
Of course.
Included with the deluxe edition. I don't know. I have never felt the lack of available civilizations in Civ to be harmful to me, so I'll take whatever random updates come out with the expansion down the road, and I don't need to have the DLC, whatever civilizations, because there's already enough civilizations that I still haven't tried in Civ 5, and I'm sure I won't be able to get into all of them in this one either.
Do you think that season pass gets you any expansions, or is it just going to be covering base DLC?
I would imagine it just covers base DLC, unless they decide to remove that idea and go with like a season pass kind of model, and put in those sorts of. But I don't know how you would add systems and stuff like they usually do in the expansions through DLC. That'd be really weird.
Interestingly, one of the reviews that I've read of this is it doesn't feel short on systems like Civ 5 did when it came out. Like, this feels like a complete game except for the diplomacy, which seems lacking.
Yeah, I wonder if they have some like ideas for that stuff. They just didn't have enough time. Because I know you and I even discussed this. We played a couple of games of Civ together, didn't we?
Civ
Way
5?
back? Yeah.
Oh yeah, and yeah, definitely. We played a couple multiplayer games when everyone was please wait.
Yeah, that's right, man. What a weird thing.
So Civ is actually a turn-based game for people that don't realize or know this. So when you end your turn, other people's turns are happening after yours. Well, when you're playing against a computer, that pretty much happens instantaneously.
Mm-hmm.
What's funny about when you play a multiplayer version of this game, we think from JJ and I experimenting with multiplayer that the multiplayer turns go in at the same time.
Yeah, and so like you can do stuff like block your if you're playing with other human opponents, it seems like all the humans' turns go, if not simultaneously, like close to simultaneously. And so like I can move, like in real time, Andrew sees my unit move, and then he can counter that move by waiting until I have moved and then moving. Which seems crazy. There's no like wait until all people have moved and then submit and resolve conflict kind of mode.
Yeah.
It's just like whoever chooses to, if there's a critical tile you want to get to, like a pass in between some mountains or whatever, it's whoever clicks on it first, and like their guy gets there first. It's crazy.
It's crazy, especially when you come into it the first time and you're like, wait a minute, you're not waiting for your turn?
Yeah, especially when you don't realize that that's how it works, right? And like all of a sudden you see like a place you want to build your city, and like, oops, the other guy's settler showed up there first. Sorry.
Yeah,
that was weird. But we definitely both felt, at least in the early part of that game, that there was stuff like the game was fine. Build your wonders and build your buildings and culture and stuff. The game didn't feel that. It was good, but it wasn't great, right? You were like, this is good, but like the end game is kind of boring, and boats really, really are useless, and there's just like not a lot of other stuff to do.
Definitely.
And then after the expansions came out, one of them added religion, which added a whole thing that didn't exist before, and then the other one added a bunch of late game stuff that made that game a lot better.
Yeah, the second expansion really, really kicked that game up a notch, which makes me worried that they're obviously holding back again, even though it sounds like they put out a more complete product.
Yeah. Like in the initial release of that game, there was no spying, which has been a thing in Civilization for forever. And the initial release, there was no spying. And people were like, what? And, that second expansion, it added spying, and all of a sudden things were a lot more interesting.
Oh, well. Well, yeah. Until the game's released, I don't know that there's going to be much more other than watching people stream it, which is not the most enjoyable thing.
It is a slow game. It's tough to watch if you're not way into it. I could believe that.
Well, if you drop in on somebody mid-game, you're just kind of like, I have no idea what they're doing, what their civ is, what their strategy is,
Yeah, I believe the release date it would be Thursday at 9 p.m. Pacific time, which is midnight Eastern. I believe that's the U.S. release this Thursday. So that would be the 21st? Yes.
Oh, October.
Yes. So the 21st at midnight, which is the 20th night. So that Thursday night. So, we'll see. I'm sure at least one of us will have installed Civ by the next episode and be able to talk at least a little bit about it.
Yeah, if not both.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe I'll watch you stream it.
Oh, that's an idea. We'll see. I don't know how much free time I'll have this weekend.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just stuff to do, man.
Well, life stuff. We were gamers.
That's true.
We
Very
were
true.
gamers. We're going to be gone all weekend, actually. We're going to be up in Northern California for Katie's college reunion.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm. So
Should be interesting.
hopefully that means that I'm going to have to force myself away from Skyrim, which you're still wrong about, and get back to Bravely Default.
Hashtag sorry, not sorry.
I still really like it.
That's great. I'm glad that you're having a good time, dude. People are allowed to like
God.
what they like. That's good.
I could see if you went just like sword and board, how it would get kind of annoying.
Yeah.
But archery and sneaking is really fun, where I just sneak my way through a dungeon and no one ever knew I was there, and I've archered everyone to death before they even see me.
Awesome. That's cool. I'm glad that you have found something
path.
good and you're liking it. Yeah. People can do what they want.
I know I know that people don't care because it's like a 10-year-old game, but I am ready to render the verdict even without having finished it. Totally worth the time and money at this point, where you could probably get a full. Well, wait, actually, right, for the new release of it.
Yeah, but then, like, is the new release of it gonna break all the existing mods and stuff? And then does the new version, is it better than the modded old version and all that kind of stuff?
I'm not judging it based on mods. I'm just saying in the new release of it, like you'll get they're gonna add in so many things, mod wise, and
I don't think so. I believe the new release is just like upscaling the textures and cleaning stuff up to be less broken.
Yeah, well, that game is really broken.
And probably including all the DLC, I would assume. I don't know if that's how it works or not, but probably.
I think that would still be worth it.
I think that, especially considering the price you can get that base game and the DLC at on Steam sales and stuff, even if you don't get this whatever remastered edition that they're releasing, I think you could probably get that whole game for like $15, and that's probably a really good price, dollar per hour spent.
Absolutely.
If that was a metric that you wanted to use.
Well, that's one of the reasons we really like, you and I have historically really liked RPGs. You pay as much as $60, but often much less, and get many hours out of it. And if the grind part of it isn't completely boring, like it is in some games, it's worth the time.
Yeah. And, usually they tell in theory, they tell a good story.
Yeah, often not so much anymore, but
that's why I said in theory. Yeah. But, it's I'm glad people like it. It's not my cup of tea, and that's okay.
Well, we talked a little bit about this once on a podcast in the past, and I think we snuck it under the radar for a little bit. But due to our general wishy-washiness about the quality of Hearthstone currently, we both tried out Duelyst this past couple weeks.
Yeah. It's been an interesting experience learning to play that game.
We should probably give people an idea of what Duelyst is.
So Duelyst is ostensibly another card game, similar to Hearthstone in a lot of respects, that you have a deck and you have cards and you have a hand of them and you get, points each turn in order to play these cards.
Monsters and spells and items.
Yep. Very similar in all those sorts of respects, except the difference in this case is that there is also a grid-based battlefield, and each turn you have your monsters and your general on it, your general being your sort of avatar, I guess, that you move around on this grid in order to, it adds kind of a strategic layer to the playing monsters and cards and spells and stuff.
Right. Your monsters, like in Magic or in Hearthstone or Warlord or whatever, are not just sort of laid out in front of your character in a straight line, right?
Right.
You're moving around this grid in, what do they call that? There's a word for it when you don't move diagonally, you only move in straights.
Orthogonally?
Yes. That is the word I am thinking of.
Mm-hmm. But it's not all orthogonal, because you can attack diagonally as
Correct.
well as on the... you can attack in all 8 directions, I guess.
Correct, yes. But movement-wise and placement-wise, you take into account the whole grid, and you can place your monsters anywhere within certain areas of where your general is and all that sort of stuff. There's
You can
also
actually place anything in areas around anywhere that you have minions. So if you summon minions like in corners or whatever, you can place around those too.
wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, pro tip.
Okay, well,
That was something that I learned while playing some of the fabulous in-game tutorials.
are you being facetious?
No, the in-game tutorials are very good.
Oh,
After you get through a certain amount of things, you unlock these like solo challenges and stuff that teach you all the mechanics.
okay. I unlocked the solo challenges.
Yes,
I have not played through all of them yet.
They are very quick, and well, they're very quick, assuming you understand what they're trying to teach you. Which they don't. Not all of them do a good job in that, but they are very quick in that they show this. You're going to learn about one thing. This one, you're going to learn about minion sacrifice, and how you can sacrifice your guys to get something cool. This one, you're going to learn about rush, which is the equivalent of charge in Hearthstone, or what's the keyword? Haste in Magic?
Haste, yeah.
Yeah, and like, it's just your guy, you can play him and he can attack immediately. Or they have one that lets you activate a guy twice, so you can move and attack and then move and attack.
Or the zealousness, which is if you're touching your general, you get more attack or defense or whatever.
Right, and there's flying and there's ranged and there's a whole bunch of keywords in Duelyst, a lot more than in Hearthstone, I think, in general.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, but and they teach you a lot of those mechanics through those solo challenges, and each time you complete one, you earn a small amount of gold, 5 or 10, something like that, and there are quite a lot of them, at least to my mind, and I think you could probably earn like 2 or 3 packs of cards off just doing those solo challenges, and then they want you to play more online matches before they'll unlock more of them. And I haven't done that yet.
Mm-hmm. So they're trying to like get you into the weeds a little bit with your little knowledge and let you try.
Yeah, they're like, hey man, now that you've heard about all these things, maybe go try build your own deck and tweak your things around with that thing and then see how it goes.
I think we should talk a little bit more about the mechanics until we get into the other parts of it, but so overall, your hand of cards, different than many other games, you draw at the end of your turn.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
But on your turn, you can replace any of the cards in your hand with a randomly drawn card.
Right. It's essentially like taking a card from your hand, shuffling it back into your deck, and drawing a card. You can still get the same thing you shuffled back in, and that's happened, and it sucks. Or I assume you shuffled in one you didn't want, right? Maybe, I don't know why you would shuffle in one you did want. Yeah, but yeah, you can definitely get something that you can get back out. There's allowed 3 copies of each thing in a deck. So it's less than Magic at 4, but more than Hearthstone at 2. And I think legendaries in that game are the same, where you only get one of them. It's a 40-card deck, the same as Hearthstone.
Hearthstone's 30.
Oh, Hearthstone is 30, you're right. Magic is 40. No, Magic is 60.
Magic's 60, minimum.
Yeah. So it's a little interesting in that way that there's kind of a middle size there. And the replacement stuff is very interesting. And unlike Magic and Hearthstone, but more like Hearthstone, you do gain 1 mana per turn. You don't have to like play land cards or anything. You
can also gain mana by touching mana orbs on the battlefield.
Yeah, and the battlefield has 3 specific spots on it that have these one-time use gain 1 mana orbs.
Now, instead of having a mechanic like the coin in Hearthstone or extra cards in Magic, in Duelyst, going first and second puts you on different sides of the board, which are further from magic orbs. And so like ostensibly give you an advantage somehow?
Right. So like the player who goes second starts off within walking distance of one of those orbs. And if they summon a unit on that orb, you can gain the 1 extra mana on your first turn. The first player who, gets their mana first would not be able to get to any of the orbs with their basic movement unless they have some kind of crazy spell.
Now, I couldn't quite tell, but does that mana doesn't carry over?
I think it does.
Oh, okay. It unlocks a crystal, basically?
No, it's until you use it. I think once you use it, it goes away.
Okay.
So it's like a bonus one that you get until you use it.
I couldn't tell if it carried over or not. I wasn't paying close enough attention. I was
I
just
don't
trying
know
to
either. I
unlock
thought that.
the classes so quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know either, to be honest with you. I thought it was temporary, but maybe it's not. I don't know.
Now, each thing, instead of classes, they have kingdoms, which started kind of the same idea, right? You have different
It's the
fields
same
per
thing, yeah.
kingdom. There were 9, I think, also, just like in Hearthstone.
Maybe.
Maybe there are more, 8.
I could not tell you.
We clearly are great reporters.
Something I do know, though, is that each kingdom has a general, and then it has a second general that you unlock when you get to level 11 with that kingdom.
Oh, okay. So you have
Uh,
2 options for generals. That's kind of a cool
right.
idea.
And each general has a unique spell, sort of like in Hearthstone, you have a hero power. Well, each of these generals have a hero power, except that the second general has a completely different hero power and text.
And each general has different attack and health based on how strong their powers are.
Right. For the majority of them, it seems like you get 2 attack and 25 health. That might be slightly different for some factions and others, but that seems to be the base level.
Now, what mechanic stuff haven't we covered before we get too far afield? Because I'm trying to lay out for people like the differences between that and other card games, and
so like
it's very
placement
different
matters.
when it comes to the board. It's
Right.
much more like playing like Final Fantasy Tactics, and one of the
Sure.
byproducts of this was I know that I really want to play a tactics game once I'm done with the 2 other RPGs I've got going.
Sure. Yeah. The placement stuff matters a lot more in Hearthstone or Magic. Magic placement doesn't matter at all, really, as far as I can tell. But in Hearthstone, placement is like, do you play it on the left or the right side of the card that's already out? And that matters infrequently, but sometimes it does. In this game, the placement matters an absolute amount because where you place them determines where they can move and what they can do from that location and that stuff. You only have certain areas around your general in order to place things or around your other cards that you've played. And it makes the whole, like, there are cards that get bonuses for attacking the back of enemies and all kinds of stuff like that. And so the placement is like a big, big deal, which makes the game a lot more skillful, potentially, than Hearthstone.
It's an interesting question. Is it actually more skillful, or is it kind of blind luck in a weird way?
I don't think it's blind luck, because it's player-made choices, right? So a player who knows a lot more about the game might choose to place their minion on the field there in a different location than one who doesn't, right? Like, oh, if I place him here, he can get hit by this spell from this guy, where if I place him over here, maybe he's out of range. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, that
choices.
experience gives you ideas of what you could do better. But I wonder, since the board is so open and you have so much less defense than you do in a game where you have a linear line of people in front of you, kind of, right? Does it leave you open with bad draws, or you just lose games because all you're doing is running away the whole time and there's nothing you can do?
I mean, at some point, there are units that can force enemies to attack them, right? Similar to the taunt mechanic, where they can't move until they initiate an attack on that unit. Generals can still summon people, but you can't move your unit away or attack anyone else until you've killed that. I think it's called provoke in Duelyst, but it's the equivalent of taunt. And so there's that you can use to sort of constrain positions. There are all kinds of spells that do all kinds of crazy stuff. You can use those in a lot of cases. There are a lot of spells that just say, like, kill this dude. There are, drawbacks or conditions and stuff you might have to meet in order to make those spells useful, but those spells exist. The random aspect of what cards you're going to draw is always going to be a thing in a card game. It's equally as the same as poker and Hearthstone and Magic and any game that you draw cards from a deck. Sometimes you're going to get the ones you want and sometimes you aren't. You can mitigate that through the deck building, right? Put 3 copies of all the things you need and not as many of the ones you don't. I'd say the game overall has more skill-based decisions than Hearthstone does. That's my opinion.
I think that's fair.
If not necessarily because they are like more skillful innately, but just there are more of them, right? You have to choose a placement, where in Hearthstone you just play it most of the time, right?
Yeah.
So, all games are difficult to play well and play perfectly, but Duelyst has a lot of choices. In a large percentage of cases, maybe those choices don't matter that much. But, that one or two times you might lose a game because of it.
Fair enough.
Yeah. It seems cool. Like I said, the tutorial stuff has been very helpful in at least teaching me how to play Duelyst. And I think every day they have a way for you to earn 5 gold by doing a daily challenge, which I have found quite challenging so far, actually. They're little puzzles where you have a board set up and a hand of cards, and you have to kill the enemy general that turn. You get 1 turn to kill him with whatever you have in your hand.
Seems like somebody figures it out and just posts it on Reddit.
Of course, someone always figures it out and posts it on Reddit, but it's more fun if you don't do that and you just look at it and try and learn. You're trying to learn the game, Andrew. Come on.
Can we talk about aesthetics now? Because that's what I really where I want to get to the meat.
You want to say aesthetics?
Aesthetics.
Yeah.
I hate the aesthetics of this game.
You don't like the look.
I straight up, I don't use the word hate a lot, but I hate it.
It is a pixel art type of look.
They call it pixel art. I call it pixel fart. Looks terrible.
Got him.
So they've chosen a design for the game for people that haven't seen it yet, but you should take a look at it, where the grid and everything else around it are very nice and pretty.
It looks like kind of watercolor.
Yeah, it's like watercolor. It looks painted, kind of, with this really kind of Tron-y neon, like, holographic board laid on top of the artwork. And then they slap down these 3D-ish pixelated sprites that look like they might have belonged in an old game, but are also so overly complicated that most of them you can't even tell what the heck they are.
So in a lot of cases, yeah, they're not. None of them are 3D. To be clear, they're all 2D. They just have like animations for different facing and direction and stuff. So it looks like they're 3D-ish, but they're not. It's 2D sprites.
They're 2D sprites, but they angle them and they have these boards and all that to make them try to appear like they're popping up.
So you're looking at them from like a 3/4 perspective, right? So they're all kind of
right. Okay, maybe that's what I mean. You're looking at them in 3/4. But anyway, I can't tell what half of them are supposed to be.
It gets a little easier the longer you look at them.
Okay, I mean, I guess that's recognizing, pictures like in Hearthstone, but at the same time, like, they're on a battlefield. It's a little bit different than recognizing a static picture that's in the same spot all the time.
Yeah, you're right.
Complaint number 2 is that this then translates to the cards. So the thing that I can't recognize on the battlefield is also on the cards, and I'm just kind of like, what? What is that?
I mean, you hover over it, and it shows you exactly the card.
I know. I'm just saying. Like, when you're looking at the cards, you just, like, it seems like they would be a lot harder to memorize.
You cannot easily recognize all of the minions by look, and that bothers you.
Yeah. So
that's a fair complaint.
That's aesthetic problem number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Aesthetic problem number 2. Why are all the Kingdom cards, why do they look exactly the same as all the neutral cards?
They don't.
They did to me when I opened them.
Okay.
Did I miss something?
Maybe. I don't know. I'm not paying enough attention to the actual card art, like when you open a pack, because underneath it tells you what it's for.
Right, exactly. But when I looked at them and I said, okay, so if I just looked straight at this, could I tell what faction it goes to? No.
I have now played enough of it that I think I could make good guesses for some of the factions.
Based on the sprites?
Yes, from the sprite.
I guess maybe you interact with the cards less than you do.
Yeah, what you end up looking at 99% of the time when you're playing this game is the sprite.
Which bothers me also.
Okay. I mean, that is a thing that you can agree with and have that opinion. It doesn't bother me, but yes, you most of the time you're not holding a card, right? It's not like Yu-Gi-Oh where you have a card and you stick
Or
it in your
Hearthstone.
magical thing.
Hearthstone, you've got the card right in front of you.
Nah, dude, you're not letting me finish the
Oh,
analogy.
sorry.
In Yu-Gi-Oh, you have, the cartoon show, you have a card, and you stick it in your magical thing, and a monster appears in front of you, right? And so you have now, like, you've summoned this magical monster. So you go from a card to a sprite, essentially, here. In this game, you have a sprite, and you summon a sprite. You don't have a card in your hand, right? You see just the sprites in your hand.
Yeah.
Whereas in Hearthstone, you have a card, and then you have also a card. And in Magic, there's only cards. So, I don't know. I think it's an interesting twist.
Because of that, I feel like, especially with like provoke or flying or whatever, there's really no way to tell what a card has. You can only really tell if you're hovering it, right?
Provoke has an animation. It's pretty obvious.
It was not obvious to me.
There's like a little lines that come out of it, and the guys who are provoked have like a little thing on them. All the flying ones have wings.
Once they're on the battlefield, you can tell. Yes.
Yeah.
Before they're on the battlefield is my point.
Yeah.
Like in your hand, you can't really tell what has what. You have to memorize it.
I mean, you can also just hover over it and look at it.
Yeah, I know. I'm just pointing out things that bother me.
I understand. It is a different game. It is its own thing. It's not the same as these other things.
I understand. I'm just telling you, like, things that bother me. Like, there are things that bother me in other games too. But like,
sure.
one of the this 2 out of 3 right there is all the cards look the same. Like in Magic, in everything. Like, why are the Lionar ones not white? Right? Like, why are their cards the same colors?
Because their sprites all look like Lionar sprites.
Okay, but why
and you're interacting with the
card
because you're interacting with the sprites 90% of the time, Andrew.
It doesn't change anything. Your argument doesn't hold any sway over the card.
But you don't see the card almost ever in the game. You only see the sprite. And I can tell a Lionar sprite because it has the blue and yellow colors and like stuff.
I just feel like it's lazy for them not to change the colors on the cards.
All right. I'm sorry that you don't like their card coloring.
How do you feel about the interface for the game?
It's not as clear as I would like.
I agree. Everything is everywhere on the whole screen.
It has the same things, as far as I can tell, as Hearthstone does, in that you can craft cards and you can disenchant them and you can do all that kind of stuff. You can see what cards you have and all that in the collection, but it's way more confusing to figure out.
Practically everything is some sort of bubble with a symbol that then they don't tell you what it is to kind of like figure it out. Speaking of bubbles with symbols, that's also what a card pack is.
Yeah, they're little orbs. I don't like their card pack, like symbol, whatever you call it, like their card pack.
It's very designed. Everything is very, very designed, especially to give the aesthetic that it's some sort of holographic game, right? Everything's some sort of orb or whatever. Yeah. But I think they just took it too far that direction without thinking of the design of actual interface and people using it and making it easy to it's easy to understand. Like, I get it. You put things on the battlefield, you look at those places in your hand, you hover them. But like, it could be quicker to pick up if things are easier to distinguish, I think. Especially the freaking sprites.
I disagree. The sprites are distinct. I can tell them apart.
You can tell them apart. I'm not saying you can't tell them apart, but I can't tell what they are at all.
Okay, I don't know. A lot of them are just like little monsters.
Yeah. I mean, half of them end up looking like little trash cans to me.
Okay, that's very reductive, but yeah, sure. You don't like the art style, that's fine. That is a fair criticism, and you say that it confuses you, and that's fine. Maybe this game isn't for you. I'll probably stick with it for a little bit. I don't know that I'm going to play it a lot.
I don't think I'll be doing dailies in it. I definitely want to get to the point that you got to where they're teaching you little nuanced stuff to see if that changes my opinion of the battlefield play.
Yeah, the solo challenges are interesting.
I'm interested enough to get that far because, to me currently, all the factions seem like they're the same because they're all using just the like one or two of their faction specific cards, but the rest are all the general monsters. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a lot because you haven't really started unlocking the faction specific stuff. As you start leveling the factions up, they each all start also, as Hearthstone does, unlock you cards for that faction.
Right.
And then you'll immediately go into that deck and pull out a bunch of the basic ones and sub in.
Right. Yeah, and I want to kind of understand the feel for the factions a little bit more before I make a final judgment. But God, it hurts my eyes to look at sometimes, and the interface bugs me.
Yeah, the interface is not the greatest. I agree with that.
Well, there's something to be said for simplicity.
Absolutely. And I'm sure the people at Blizzard work very hard on that.
I guess being their main competitor. I don't know. I have not ever played Magic Online to see what their interfaces and stuff like that are. I don't think I have interest.
Yeah, according to people on the internet, the Magic Online stuff is not good. But I don't know. I've never played it either.
I think I would be too nostalgic for holding real cards to play Magic Online.
Totally. I totally feel the same.
Yeah. If I started playing green or something, I'd just want to like put it down and go buy cards.
Yeah, man, you want to slap down that elf.
Sure. Or Ents or whatever, you know?
Yeah. Saplings. Yeah. Well, Andrew, shall we give the people what they've been dying for, the weekly fantasy football update?
I'm just going to preempt it and say my team sucks, both leagues. They all suck. All my players suck. Odell Beckham put up 32 points and I still lost. I don't understand what's happening, and I don't understand either how after this week I'm still going to be in 2 games of like 4th place in both leagues.
2 games of 4th place?
Yeah, I think in both leagues that I'm in, well, one with you and the other league, even if losing these games this week, I think if I win 2 games straight, I could probably make it into 4th place if everything went right.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I don't understand that. I don't understand any of it. This season of fantasy football is just driving me nuts.
It's very tight. The league that you and I are in together is really, really close. Like, I think there's probably 6 of the 12 players are like would change spots with one win or 1 loss. Yeah, it's pretty impressive. This week in particular, I am losing 1 of my 3 leagues, so I'm winning 2 of them, which is pretty good. Except that, unfortunately, my win in the work league is not going to help me out of 9th place because I don't have enough points to eclipse the guy who is also losing. So all the people in the bottom, I won, but the win isn't enough to get me over the points of the guy in 8th, even though he also lost. So
I'm
sucks.
sorry.
I know. What a bummer. But I'm clawing my way up out of that basement. I'm trying so hard.
I have major running back problems in both leagues, and I have completely different running backs in both leagues, and I don't understand it. Between both leagues, I have like probably 10 starting running backs.
Yeah, and I don't have... I think I have 1 running back in all 3 leagues that's the same. And all my other running backs are different. And it's all a dumpster fire. God, only one I have that's any good is ones I've gotten off the waiver wire. That's horrible.
I've gotten to the point that I'm picking up guys to wait for them to be good from the waiver wire because...
Oh, yeah, pick up backups and like expect the primary guy to get injured. Yeah,
that's all I'm left with.
Legitimate fantasy play. Or pick up guys that were injured and are coming back.
I'm too depressed to get into how each player is doing or how my leagues are doing. I'm so saddened by NFL football and my fantasy teams. Everything's collapsing.
I don't know. I don't think the NFL is collapsing, although apparently their ratings are down this season. They're sad by this somehow.
I don't mean the NFL is collapsing. I just meant that the Broncos are in a tailspin for some reason.
Well, the last game they were in a tailspin because their head coach wasn't there. He was off having migraines or something at home.
Yeah. Which I forgot to correct you on in the bonus episode. So for those emails that I get about it, yes, I know Gary Kubiak wasn't there.
Yeah.
Which might have been part of the problem.
undoubtedly it was related, if nothing else. Yeah. So, who knows, man? The season isn't over, and it sure looks like our league is not our fantasy league, but the AFC West is not a good league this year. So
I don't know what happened. The
division.
Raiders now. What happened to the Raiders this week? The Chiefs are good again.
The Chiefs killed the Raiders. Apparently, it was not close. So that means probably the Chiefs and the Raiders are going to be looking for number 1, number 2. But like the Broncos could at any week decide to start playing like they were previous weeks and start winning again. So who knows what's up with that? And then the Chargers will be last.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. The Chargers will be last too.
They have played so poorly. I can't expect them to do anything other than be last, which is where they deserve to be.
I think it's just a matter of time before the coach goes or another player gets hurt, and then that's the end of the season.
Yeah, you're probably right. And the Raiders got a stadium financing deal in Vegas.
Did the Raiders get it, or did the financing deal for the stadium happen and they still haven't guaranteed it?
The financing deal for the stadium happened, and then the Raiders owner immediately put out a release that says, "Wow, that's really nice and looks great," and then immediately made a commitment to be in Oakland for the next 2 years.
What?
Yeah, so I guess that's his way of saying, you guys get 2 years to finish building it, and then we'll move? I don't know. Unclear to me what that's about. But yeah, they passed some kind of like hundreds of millions of dollars deal in Vegas to build whatever.
Well, if their ratings are down, they're not going to expand to add more teams, which means somebody's got to move to Vegas.
Oh, the Raiders are going to move for sure. It's just, I guess, not within the next 2 years.
Wow.
Weird.
Wow. Okay.
Football, still a thing.
JJ, where can people get a hold of us?
Well, if people want to get a hold of us, and they might have guessed about the bonus episode that we had based on things we posted on Instagram, which is at We Were Gamers. So if you want to follow us there, you see sweet pictures of how awesome our seats were at that football game.
Or my old, poor, blown-up phone.
Or Andrew's poor, destroyed phone. Yes. Yeah. Follow us on that. We have a Twitter account if you want to follow it too. It's also at We Were Gamers. Our Facebook page is We Were Gamers.
Both of those two places, Twitter and Facebook, you can find out things like bonus episodes that we forget to announce.
Yeah, and like the times that those things are released. If you want to, we are on iTunes and Google Play, where you can leave us reviews and tell us how awesome we are. If you want to send us questions to this podcast, you can send it to podcast@weweregamers.com. And we will read them and probably answer them, or we'll talk about them anyway, if nothing else.
Yeah, there's no guarantee we can answer your question.
Yeah. We'll definitely talk about answering your question. Whether we actually give you an answer or not, who can say?
We will wax about your question, and that's probably it.
Absolutely. That's a promise.